the case, while it may not turn one way or another, it can definitely damage the case if you really poop the bed on your deposition, all right? So let's talk about how you go about with a deposition. The first one is prepare for your deposition. Now, obviously, you'll meet with the lawyer and all that and get prepared, but you also have to do a little studying. Because like I said to you, you may do service in 2000, I see, today, you go out and do service, the lawsuit gets filed 2 years later, you may give your deposition another year after that. In that time frame, the standing medical orders could change. So your testimony has to be gauged on what you could do, what you couldn't do, based on the time and standing medical orders that were in effect at that time. So you may require us to go back and look at the old standing medical orders, and they do change. Sometimes you have different medications you can push, sometimes there's different things you can do. So you need to review all those, and I mean review all the reports. The EMS report, the firehouse report, all of those. To that extent, I don't know about your system, but some systems you can print out different reports. Sometimes when they subpoena the report, they get a shorter version. And the longer version may have the diagram of the body and will have the strips on it and all this other stuff. You got to review the whole report to make sure you understand what's going on. And it is sort of a test. Right? You don't have to memorize it, but you sure should be pretty comfortable about all the events and key things in there. All right? It's normal to be nervous in a deposition. If you're not nervous in the deposition, I'm going to be nervous. Because we're going to have the cocky person who thinks they're the best one in the room. But because you're nervous at times, you want to get it over. And sometimes you don't always listen because you want to talk real fast and get out of there. I want to get done. But you have to listen to the question. You take a second, go, what are they asking me and what is the correct answer? Because sometimes in our little fun things aren't always as they appear, and sometimes we try to trick you. Sometimes we'll ask you, could you describe what you observed when you arrived at the scene? You go, that's all, blah, 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 blah. Anytime a lawyer then goes, let me see if I understand what you just told me. Correct me if I'm wrong. A little alarm should go off in your head that something bad's about to happen. Because you're going to take a little something you said in that long 3, 4, 5 paragraph answer and twist it just a little bit. So that it goes from being, in essence, a yes to a no. And if you're not paying attention, you'll fall into the trap. Now, your lawyer will be there and object and all that sort of stuff, but you need to be paying attention too. So you always got to listen. This is the other thing. Think before you answer. Take the time and think. Now, I don't want a 30-second break while you sit there and they ask you your name. It takes you 30 seconds to answer, okay? But take a breath. Because if your lawyer's there may be an objection. And I will tell you, mostly in discovery depositions, we allow you to answer anyway. But sometimes we have to make our record. Sometimes in the objection, there's a hint of what's wrong with the question or the big trap that's in there. So you always listen to your lawyer's objection. Because you guys, some of you have given depositions before. How many times do they ask you the same question over and over again? Does it happen a lot? So one of the things that they try to do is they'll ask you a question early on, they'll revisit it halfway through because they want to see if you'll change your answer. So your lawyer, if he's going to objection, ask an answer. You kidding me? He told you an hour ago it was green. But go ahead and answer again. What was the purpose of that objection?
You tell me my green.
I do what you said. Right? Because I don't expect you to remember everything you said. That's my job. So, take a breath, listen to the objections, and after your lawyer says to answer, you answer. If your lawyer says don't answer that question, don't answer that question. Here is the hardest one. Do not volunteer information. Human nature. Anytime somebody kind of infers or accuses us of doing something wrong, human nature kicks in, and you think you can do what? And it goes back to being a kid. I can talk my way out of this. Nope. No, you can't. You can't. You're not going to convince the lawyer on the other side through your ramblings that they're going to go, my bad, I should have never filed this lawsuit to begin with. It's not going to happen. okay? All you're gonna do is make the deposition last twice as long as it needs to. All right? And I've done a lot of depositions, thousands of thousands. I guarantee you that those who follow that simple rule do much better than those who don't. So human nature is we want to help. Your job by its very nature is you want to help. So if I go up to you and I sit there and say, hey, do you know what time it is out on the bay floor, what are you going to do? You're going to look at your watch and tell me what time it is. That wasn't the question. The question is, do you know what time it is? Yes or no? The answer is no. They can say, well, are you wearing a watch? Yes. What time does the watch say? 11:43. That's how you get to what time it is. The same is true when you get into the facts of the case. If you ask the question is, what road was the accident on? It was on Main Street. Not it was on Main Street near this street, but if I right near Jewel. No, he didn't ask you any of that. Answer the questions only of what they ask you, no more, no less. Make them earn it. Because I can't tell you how many times I'm taking a deposition and somebody's rambling and they say something, I'm like, man, I never thought of that. And I spent a half hour going down a path I never would have gone down in the first place. So you control that to a certain extent, how long a deposition is going to last. The other thing is you always think you got to have an answer. If you're coming in to testify about something that happened 3-4 years ago, if you know every single answer, you're making crap up. All right? There's just no way around it. You're not going to remember, what was the weather like that day? I don't know. What color were the socks they were wearing? I don't know. It's okay to say, I can't recall or I don't know. All right? On most things. You don't want to sound like you have a head injury, you don't remember anything, but you want to, some things you're not going to remember everything. So, and if you're estimating something, somebody asks you, how far was it from the, how long was the skid mark that you saw? Everybody laughs every time I say that. Anyway, the humor never changes. Anyway, so, I don't want somebody to come in and say it was 12.27 feet. You don't know that. You didn't measure it. I'd rather say it's somewhere between 8 and 12 feet. Because if the next guy comes in and says between 9 and 13, we're in the same range. You don't want to create an inconsistency by you thinking you have to say it was down to the millimeter what it was. So if you're going to estimate, give yourself a little wiggle room.
Would you say I estimate,
Yeah, between 8 and 10 feet or 8 and 12 feet or whatever. All right, next one is to speak clearly. We have one or two things happen. We have the individual that comes in and starts talking at 800 miles an hour because they really remember they want to get it done and nobody understands what they say. Then you get the other person who does one of these things, like they stick it, I don't remember. You're a professional. You're being sized up. I want you to come in confident that what you did is right and what you did for that patient was the very best you could do for that patient. All right? The other thing that I wanted to add that I forgot to add is when you're doing a deposition, and somebody asked earlier, do you dumb it down? You never dumb it down. You testify about the medical procedures you're doing as if you're talking to another doctor or another paramedic. Because you can't dumb down a lot of the procedures that you do. How do you dumb down an intubation? Shove the tube down their throat? Stuck a needle in their arm for an IV? No. Right? There's certain things you do, so you can't dumb it down. You know, the lawyer goes, I'm just a simple lawyer, I don't understand all this medical stuff, can you dumb it down? No. If he doesn't understand, that's his problem. Have somebody else explain it to him. Google it. I don't care. It's not your job to dumb things down. All right? The last one is, this sounds kind of like, so depositions are inherently stressful. Right? So I generally take a break about every 45 minutes or an hour into it if one of my people are being deposed because it is a lot of energy being burned during that time. If your lawyer asks you, do you need a break? Your answer is always, yes, sir. If your lawyer throws a pen down and says, we're taking a break, it means you screwed up. All right? So, but part of the process of doing a deposition is you wanna kinda tweak the person that you're, by tweak, I mean you wanna see their reaction. See how they respond when they're pushed, see if you can get them flustered. On cases where somebody has lost a loved one, I'm opposing the wife or the kids, I'm gonna get them upset, make them cry at least 3 or 4 times. Why? Because some people fake it. Plus you wanna see what kind of crier they are. Are they a convincing crier to the jury? Is the jury gonna buy into it? And these are the sort of things you do. Plaintiff's attorneys try to get you annoyed a little bit, because when you're annoyed, you don't think as well. Right? When you're mad, you sometimes say things you wish you hadn't said. Right? Anybody in a relationship knows that. You get mad, you say things, anyway. So that's why you need to take breaks and keep yourself, and you feel yourself getting mad, say, I need to take a break. They can't say no. Just get up and walk out. They're not going to tackle you. So the other thing you want to do is on any deposition, whether it's one where you're a defender, you're just going in there. This is one where you're a defendant in the case or accused of done something wrong, you need to understand that the only person not there to screw you over is your lawyer. I don't care how friendly they are. I don't care how much donuts or sodas or whatever they offer you. I don't care. They're there to get you. And you're going to have plenty of, hey, listen, I was hesitant to bring this lawsuit. I have a lot of family members that are in the fire service, and I really respect what you guys do. Nah, don't fall for that crap, all right? He's there to make money. And that's all he cares. He can care less about you. Care less about the fire service. So don't fall into those traps. So are there any questions?
No, sir.
Can you just kind of touch on, like, psych evals, like, who like post up on social media, whatever it is?
Oh, for refusal on those? Yeah, so that gets a little tricky because a couple things. You see something on social media, it depends how stale is it, right?
Okay.
And then the next question is if they post it on social media, if it's fresh, so to speak, done that day, the question is who's gonna sign the paper, right? Because you didn't see it, right?
Well, sometimes we do, if they pull it up and we see it, like the one we've had a couple of times, it says, I really don't wanna be here anymore. Like, and that's all it says. Something
Okay.
Or I
along
just
those
wish I
lines.
was gone. or
So
something.
it's, well,
Yeah.
what, do you not wanna live in the house with your parents because you're a teenager and your parents are assholes, or, who are we to
So
pick what they
my
specifically-
preference is, just so we're clear, any involuntary commitment, I prefer that somebody other than EMS signs the document, if at all possible. That's my preference. I'd rather have a witness, a family member, the cops, probably won't sign it, but, anybody but EMS, because I want you to be that neutral party, so to speak, that is there to help the patient. But if you're there, you got information, be it from a family member, or if the patient themselves confirms they said it, or wrote it, and in your mind that they're a threat to themselves or to others, then you can sign it and take them in, but I would definitely run it by the hospital if you have any questions or concerns on that. Social media is tough because sometimes I've had situations where people have tweeted things, or had things tweeted through the phone that they didn't write, and some custody issues and stuff like that. So you gotta make sure, I had a lawsuit where somebody got taken because it was from her phone and sent to 4 different people, found out down the road the husband did it, but at the time, I'd rather err on taking her in and having her held than letting her go and she offs herself.
That's what I'm saying, like, you got like the whole like Snapchat thing where it comes
Right.
and goes and it's gone and.
Unless you got, if somebody says they said it, and then let's say it's somebody down in Florida, right, oh yeah, she said that, and she denies saying it, I probably wouldn't take it.
Okay.
Right, unless you have something you see, because I can say anything, I can call up right now and say, hey, we were just in this class, he said he's gonna off himself, you're gonna say, no, I didn't, yeah, I heard it, right,
Take them.
and he just got released, didn't he?
Well, yeah,
I think I did.
from the old.
But I would be,
About that elder process, talking about it.
but that's one of those that I would probably run by the hospital too, if they say bring them, then you're covered.
Yeah, we get that, where it's a domestic, husband and wife
Right.
or whatever, and they're going through divorce or having their problems, and let's say, no alcohol's involved, but, yeah, he said he was gonna fucking shoot himself, so, no, I never said that or whatever.
Then you call the
And
hospital and
that
say
was-
this, he said, she said, he said, he didn't say it, the hospital says, let them go. If the hospital says bring them. Now, obviously, that gets back to you don't have to drag them into the ambulance, fight with them, but I think that's where the police would help you. Yeah, I understand, but, other questions? Yep,
For for like reports where like you're the engine that comes in, so like a shortness of breath call or a cardiac arrest, where you don't get to read the report before they submit it, and then it comes out to be something bad and it gets brought into court, for the people who are on the engine.
Yeah, so generally in those situations, now, the only exception, if somebody from the is there normally 3 on the ambulance? 2, so if somebody jumps in from the engine, then you should read it. But if, in other words, a call where you were just there as manpower, and you don't have any involvement in the care and treatment once they're in the ambulance and leave, then you can say, listen, I can't answer any questions after the time we put them in the back of the ambulance. I mean, if it's issues with the time, even while you were there, it is what it is, we'll have to deal with it. But if you weren't in part of the transport, you can say, you know, at this point, I can only tell you what we did while we were at the house. Once you're in the ambulance, we in the engine got and left.
So like the first call that we were talking about with Conrad.
Were the times where
Yeah,
somebody
the
else?
times were all, so like all the people who were on the engine, could they get in trouble because of how that report was written?
Get in trouble, get your chops busted and that, yeah. You know, cause they'll, just even that little time frame you were there, they'll give you a hard time. Well, according to this, she was in cardiac arrest a minute after you arrived, but they're saying, so what is it? Was she in cardiac arrest or is the report wrong? And you're gonna say,